the chat's connecting, and they're connecting this time so far. All right. Germ, what's up, Germ? That was fast, man. Joining fast today.
What are you looking at?
The chat. I bookmarked it last time.
Oh, so it's the same link.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know.
How's it going, Germ? You're the first person to show up.
Let's see, what else?
Says I've got everything. I've got both Twitches. I've got one YouTube and Periscope. So one of the YouTube says it's not connected.
That's weird. All the YouTubes here say it's good.
That happened last week too, where like one of the chats or two of the chats didn't show up.
Didn't you find like that there was a new thing or something?
I don't know.
There was a new.
Let me see.
I'm going to like there was a new live link or something. I'm gonna add Matt.
Cool.
He may not answer, but at least he's gonna be in a minute.
What's up, Grant? So it looks like my chat is not connected. But that's okay, because I just opened it in another window.
What's that?
So like the restream chat, it is the video's connected, but the chat isn't. But I opened that in another window, so it doesn't matter. I have it coming up. So.
That's weird. I have this different looking chat window. Let me try Safari.
What's up, Lewis? Got Lewis, Grant, Dex, Germ, slowly coming in. So guys, we're about 7 minutes early, so I'm just gonna hang around and talk to you guys. You guys can ask me questions right now if you want. I can show you quick little things.
Weird. It looks like Safari works for this chat, but Chrome doesn't.
Yeah. I've got all of them up now, so it's okay. It's just a glitch.
Periscope's working. Yep.
Right. Cool. If I close that, will my chat stay open? Yep, cool. All right.
Channel.
Hey, for Redshift sample override, does the scale actually do anything? I was testing today, and it seemed like I could only get better results when I replaced, not scaled. What do you mean by replace, Grant? Because I've noticed that it actually makes a difference. Let me switch over into my scene that I've got up. Move this window there. So I'll turn off my buckets. Just going to prepare all this. So right now it's doing a progressive render. So if I move around, you'll see it updates pretty quickly. I've also got depth of field on, so you'll notice some things stay blurred. But let's say I want the first sphere. So this is with no undersampling. Now if I go up to 3, it's pretty much real time. Sorry, I don't have, there are 2 settings, right? One to do multiply and one just to override. Override where? Multiply. Oh, zoom in here. Gotcha. Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. So there's fixed scaling, and if you're watching and the text seems small for whatever reason, Redshift doesn't match the UI for my new monitor. So
your Windows config you gotta do.
yeah. So if I do fixed scaling, and what you want to do is turn down the right side, that's going to be your sampling. So if I do 50 and go up to say 200, you'll notice this is pretty crappy looking. And then if I go into undersampling, that's still at 3, and it's fast, but this is going to control your overall result, Grant. The render settings. Oh man. Okay, let me see. So for, let's see, Redshift sample override. Gotcha. Okay. So let's see. I was thinking so much about the new undersampling.
There we go. The chat's working for me now.
What's up, Billy? How you doing, dude? Sampling overrides. Yeah. So down in here, they only go up to whatever your max samples are too. So let's say I guess I'll do lights. So if you do replace, that's going to make your lights just have 8 samples. Every single light in your scene. Yep, there's scale and replace. So replace, so if I do 16, it's not going to actually update your lights in here. It's only at render time or in the IPR. But so with 32, it's going to replace every single light with 32. So this light's at 128. So if I want to actually replace that, it would be like 256 to double that. Now for scale, it's taking whatever number you have in here and multiplying it by the scale. So 128 times 1 is going to be 128, but times 2 is going to be 256. And probably the best way to show that is turning on my samples. No, let me turn on my bucket. So I'm going to turn this down to 2. So you can see it's still scaling a lot. Do 4. It's probably because I have so many samples on up here too. It's going to be pretty clean. Let's try 1920 by 1080. Do fit original size of 100. There we go. All right. Let's see if I can get samples shown again. Replace worked. Like the quality seemed to get better, but no matter how much I scaled it, it didn't seem to change anything. Grant, do you know what version of Redshift you're running? Because I've always used it and it seems like it's worked. What's up, David? I'm sorry that you have to finish your music video.
I told me to get on anyway, multitasking when he's working. Right, we're at 9 o'clock.
Cool. Keep trying to show you this, Billy. So yeah, not Billy, Grant. So now you can see this is getting like really white in here. Seems to be working for the most part for me. I usually do replace just because I like having everything consistent. So if I have one light set at 64 samples and another light set at 32, and then I'm scaling, I'm still gonna get random numbers. Maybe there was an issue with the last version because it's up to 2.5.32 at the moment. David, isn't it like 7 o'clock West Coast time? That means your workday is over. Let's see if there's anyone else rolling in. I'm seeing. Can you tell me how many people are connected? No. All right. Well, guys, I'm gonna get started. This is mostly kind of gonna be a Q&A because the material tutorials were so in depth that I don't want to just kind of ramble on through all 3 of the main materials that I covered. So if there's a question that anyone has about any of the materials, ask away. Otherwise, we can kind of just jump around, like Grant was asking me about the override samplings and things like that. So I'm willing to just kind of jump around and answer questions if anyone has a question and I can answer it. The only other thing that I was going to show is how to do like texturing in here through nodes and add like smudges and effects like that. So let's see if anyone's got any questions, or I'll just start doing stuff. Just checking to see if I'm still connected with everybody. What's up, Sean? Billy's been an Octane. Billy, shouldn't you be an Arnold? So Grant wants to see texturing. Cool. I may just start doing that. So I kind of have these 2 spheres here. I'm going to get rid of this camera so I don't have any weird depth of field going on. Come in here. I got bucket on. Go back to that. All right, so we've got this sphere. Make sure I can rotate around that. I want to clear out this material. And I don't need this one either. That was just me playing around. What's up, Hake? Hey, Hake? If I'm saying your name wrong, dude, or dudette, sorry. H-A-I-K. I'm going to say Hake. Or hike. So, first off, to start bringing in textures and things, what you can do is create your material and double click on it, and you'll notice that there's nowhere to put any of it. There's no drop downs to bring in images or anything like that. It's all going to be in the shader graph. So if I hit edit shader graph, I've got mine docked down here. If you've worked in Octane before or Arnold, you're gonna understand it pretty well. It's just that there isn't a giant Uber shader with drop downs. So to bring in a texture, and I can go over triplanar a little bit too. You do a search for texture over here, or textures drop down here. Bring this in and connect it up to this if you want. First, I'm going to find a texture. So I'm going to use the French Monkeys kits because he's awesome, and just do some smudges. So right here I've got ambient occlusion, which is AO, diffuse, glossiness, or reflection works fine that way too, a normal map or a bump map, and then roughness, which you can pipe in kind of anywhere. It's kind of more of a bump map. So for this top one, or first example, I'm going to do glossiness. I want to copy it to my project path. I'm going to jump over to this tab and just name this glossy map. And these maps get piped into the roughness just to control how you can bring up to the blue, and you're going to get a drop down with all these submenus, and you'll notice they match up with these. So we pipe that into here. There we go. All right, so I disconnected that. It's actually going to go into reflection, and then roughness, and then now you can see it's updated in there. And let me get it on my ball. It's gonna be a lot of ball jokes tonight, probably. And I'm just gonna refresh this. You know what? I don't have any real diffuse on. That's part of the problem too. So if I go back in here, let's set like a real diffuse color, like start with like a purple. And I'm gonna bring this down about 1, just so we can get a little bit more contrast going. If you start to look in here, you can see there's a little bit of texturing happening. Bring this render into AE and add the effect. CC ball action, please. Sure, anything for you, Billy. So you kind of get a little bit of it showing up, but you can control it more using a gradient or a ramp, is what they're called in Redshift. So I'm going to bring in a ramp and put that into here for input. Bring the ramp into where we had it connected. And in the ramp, you'll see black and white. And because this map is a bunch of black and white, you start to control the contrast of it. So we can slide it back this way. You'll start to see it fade out. But if I start to slide it up more, it comes back in a little bit, tighten this up a bit. Where did you go, reflection? I just had you. Probably killed it too much. All right, so bring this back in. So the other thing you can start to do is do it with the diffuse too. And if you hold control, you can copy it. And I'm going to rename this one diffuse, so we don't get lost. And we'll go find that. Sure, we can copy that too. Put that on here. It's going to do its little calculation thing again because it's a new texture. Almost there. So this has been my big main hiccup lately, which has been super obnoxious. So there we go. We can start to see it with the diffuse right in there. And if I rotate around, my ball's not selected. There we go. You can see some details right in there. The diffuse and the specular are starting to come together. And I'm going to bring this back down to closer to black so we can really get some shine on there. And maybe I'll illuminate this a little bit more, back up to 2. Get rid of this plane. Don't need that random in there anymore. So, all right, so if I go in my buckets, I'm gonna try and get this as clear as possible. You can see a little bit. I was really hoping that I could show you right in this area and these bevels how they get kind of wonky. It's not working the way I want it to. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna bring in my Iron Giant guy so I can get some nice curves going. Clear out the floor. Don't need that. Throw this on there. change this to something a little bit more dramatic. Bring them up one more time. So we've got a little bit too much reflection on there. I'm going to go in here and just make him iron as our base to start working with. Milstead in the house. What's up, dude? All right, clear these out. I want to get a fresh start. So we're going to bring in our texture right here. And start with our smudge diffuse again. Pipe that into the roughness. Copy this. We're going to do glossiness. No, I'm not going to have it save. Pipe that in reflection. There we go. So now you can really see it doing its job. What's up, Casey? So if you start to take a look at some of these crevices, a little too far in, you start to get some repeating patterns and things not quite lining up. One of the coolest things about Redshift is you can use the triplanar, and what that does is it starts to blend areas together and overlap them so they look more natural and you don't get seams. And that's kind of a talk for another day about UV mapping and seams and things like that. But if you're working with a sphere and you've got a seam and you want to get rid of that seam, triplanar is one of the best ways to do that. You can just throw it right in here. You got this little checkbox to say same on each axis. And I'm going to just blend this up to 30%, 0.3. And so now as we move around, you'll see that we don't really get any seams anywhere. So like especially right in here, there should probably be a seam because you can tell this is where it's going to start repeating itself again. And the triplanar is using the same image and then blending the data together to get rid of it. If we go down here in the arm, same deal. Right in these areas here, you'd expect there to be a kind of a harsh seam, and there isn't. And so you can scale your coordinates and offset and rotate and really start to blend it together so you don't have to deal with that. Another cool thing that we can start to do, and this totally goes out to Billy for showing me this, is blending materials together. So say we start with this one material. This can be our base. Kind of got an iron feel to it with some scratches and stuff. We can pipe this into what's called an RS material blender. And we'll make this our base color right here. And what I'm going to do is just copy this over. Yeah, there is a rounded edges node, and I can show that too. I'll show that in a minute. So for this, let's go ahead and set this to say, let's do platinum. And we'll go in, I'll start using some scratches. Actually, I'll do grunges. So 5. And so for this one, we'll do, that's dirt. I guess I'll do dirt. That's fine. No, don't want to copy it. Just read it. And reflection, do glossiness, nope. And I'm actually gonna bring in a normal map for this one too. Get some details going. That, got that guy right there, nope. For the normal map, you can drag this, go to your little blue entry point, down in overall as your bump input. Now if I go and connect this here to surface, you'll see it's a huge drastic change. Hi, meh. It's probably gonna do its weird caching thing with this update. It's trying to cache the material. You can do it, Redshift. Come on. Please don't crash. I guess that's what I get for not doing them one at a time. With Redshift, do you use only normal maps or bump maps, or can you use both? You can use both. If you feed it into a normal map here, it'll translate it into bump. Or if you have a black and white one, it'll automatically translate it. You don't need this normal map input. All right, so there we go. So now we've got like this weird platinum beat up iron giant. If we get in really close, you can see the details in here. So with the blending material, what we're gonna do is bring this in, put this as our layer 1 color, and this is gonna be like Photoshop, where we can start blending the two together. So right now, the blend color black just means 0. Don't bring in any of this new material. But if I start sliding up the value here for black, say to 60%, this will start bringing the two together, so we start to get some of that bump in. Yeah, there's a bump blender too, which Billy just said. So if you just type in blend, there's a displacement blender, a bump blender, and a material blender. So really a lot of control there. So now if we look at this is kind of how I built the promo photo that I sent out on Twitter for this. We've got some of this original iron here, and then we've got some of this platinum beat up scratch going on, or grunge going on here. And the more I go towards white, the more it's going to replace the base. And if I go back this way, you'll see it starts to blend together. And then you can do additive, which will just kind of add the two together. So now we've got more of the original coming through. As I pull out there, bring down this to about 1, so it's not so harsh. You can really start to layer some stuff up. And then Matt, you were asking about rounded edges. For simplicity, so I don't have a bump map doing stuff too, just show you what rounded edges does. Make a new one. Get rid of all this crap here. So rounded edges pretty much applies a bevel to everything. And the way that I've gotten it to work best is by plugging it into a bump or displacement. So if you plug it into the bump, you'll see right away these harsh corners right here really start to get rounded. And so if I bring it up to like 5, well, it's going a little nuts. So this is where like a weight map would be good, or a selection tag. So we'll just do like a 0.125 samples, let's say 16. Chat at Grayscale said in one of his tutorials to turn off that small texture. Yeah, he said to do that. I haven't been able to get it to turn off. Like if I go in here and just try and put whatever I want, or even scroll down to turn it off, I haven't been able to find it. So if anyone can just tell me where it is, because I'm in R19, I thought it used to just be like right here, click, and then you say turn off. But it looks like you can just only choose stuff now. But I wonder if you can pipe an AO dirt map into the radius of the rounded edges. Kind of. It kind of would probably be like a curve map, I think. Let's see. So texture. I think you might have to do it with a curve. Can you pipe this in here? Oh yeah, the radius. So we'll go like this, and we'll get the dirt right there. No, don't copy. It's probably gonna do its weird cache thing. Oh no, that time it actually was fast. So here we go. There's the answer to your question, Liam. The preview is options right above the shader ball. Ah, okay, cool. Thank you. I thought it used to be right in here. So thanks, Billy. And also, yes, you can pipe dirt into the radius here. And then if you throw in a ramp, gotta bring this in. I can't wait for them to update this, so you can hold down Command or Control or Alt to replace that. Hopefully they do that. Sorry for trolling you earlier, Billy, in the GSG chat. So now you can really start to hone in these details here. Oh, you know what? I need to change that to Alt, and I think that's probably what I forgot to do earlier too. Why it wasn't updating. So now you can see on these rounded edges, it only really affects where this texture is. And I'm sure I could invert it too and get the same, get the inverse, of course, for what invert means. But I mean, all the corners will be mostly rounded except that. So let's do an invert. See how that, actually, you know what? I probably don't even need to do that. I can just invert these, can't I? Yeah, there we go. So now everything's rounded except for the inverse now. So pull this in a little bit closer. Actually, I need to pull this out further because we're inverted. Yeah, it is nice. It is like a nice wear map, and it's kind of a nice alternative, or like easier alternative to a curvature map. Go bring that in a little more. So now all these rounded areas are getting a little beat up as it does it. And let's bring up the samples. How about 128? We'll do 128 samples without crashing. It's giving me, oh, that's because I was in the Arnold shader network. Probably because I was messing with that. There we go. And you know what? Let's go back to our other material. And we'll do the same thing. So we'll do rounded. And we'll get a texture. That guy in there for the radius. And dirt. Yes. ramp. So pipe this into the bump since we don't have bump going in that one. Give it a second to update. Processing textures. I don't know why. Even with the auto, it's still doing it. Hi everybody, love this rounded corners. What's up, Mark? I'm gonna move my monitor a little bit so I can see the chat better. Hey Mark, I just saw your comment about 4K looking good. That's great. I'm glad that's coming through all right. What's up, Brandon? Brandon Clements. That's awesome. Totally random off topic. What 4K monitor did I get? If you go to my Twitter feed, I have a link to it in there. So if you go to @_5, the word 5, FIVE 31, it's in there. Because somebody else asked me, and if I could write back in the chat, I would. I don't, you know what? I don't have my Chrome up on this side. I have it on another monitor. But it's a BenQ monitor, and I think it's BLT7 1100U. I think that's the name of it. You know what? Let me just get my phone and I can tell you. That way I don't have to screw up this streaming. It is... Yeah, it is the BenQ, as in Queen, B as in boy, L as in lion, 2711U. So it's a 27-inch 4K monitor. It's Rec 709 certified and RGB 100 certified, so you can use it for color correction, especially if you get a like a calibrator to plug into it as well and like get it really nice. But yeah, so that's it. Man, Brandon is joining again. I guess maybe you dropped off before, Brandon. But hey, dude, I really appreciate your work. You do a lot of cool stuff. You're like, was it Octane Jesus Light? Wasn't that the joke? So that's awesome. So here we go. We've got the rounded piped into here now. And so this is starting to look really complicated, but it's not. So let me clean this up a bit. This down here for the blender. There we go. So we can start to look in here. We got some really nice details going on. So we've got this platinum with our scratchy bump happening in here. We've got rounded corners bump going into our base in here. And because we have a dirt map going onto it, it's affecting these edges really nicely. I'm going to invert this like we did on the last one. There we go. Got a little bit more rounded edge to it. And tighten this up a bit. Boom. So there we go. If I pull back, got that going on. I'm actually going to rotate this around again a little bit. Let's try like 45. There we go. I think that's a little bit better placement. So as we go around, you can see we've got just a light little bit of rounded edges all throughout. We could probably push it even a little bit further. Oh, you know what? I forgot to set that as Alt, so it'll go even better. Let's do samples to 32, so we'll clean it up a little bit. All right, so what other questions can you guys throw at me? Like I said, we're pretty much covering materials tonight, but I don't want to get overly complicated and geeky with stuff too. So if you have a question about materials, throw them at me, but I'm not going to do a deep dive like I've done every other week and talk for an hour and a half about materials. You can go watch the tutorials. But if you've watched them and you have a specific question about that, feel free to ask. So yeah, we've got this guy looking pretty good. I'm going to scroll through the chats, make sure I didn't miss anything. With Redshift, no, we already answered that. Rounded edges, yep. It's in the middle of your workday. Casey, where are you that it's in the middle of your workday, dude? Are you working overnight? Oh, no. Never mind. Matt says you're in Hawaii as I scroll up more. That's awesome, man. You should be able to watch more if you're in Hawaii, even though it's in the middle of your workday. You just put it on in the background. Cool. All right. You know what? Let's see what else we can uncover in here that I might be able to screw around with. Maybe we could have Subsurface Iron Giant just for the hell of it, because that seems to confuse people sometimes, especially me with the general material and needing my diffuse to still be on. So I'll cover that again. We'll make this SSS. Bring that in here. All right, so for Subsurface, we don't really need to go into the graph editor at the moment. We can just keep this here. And I'm going to turn this down to talk about single subsurface. Oh, can I do a quick bump, displacement and normal one? Sure. Before I go into this. I'll go into this one as our just like mess around one. So let's see. Clear these guys out. Stretch this up a bit. So for a general bump, I'm just going to bring in a texture, not one of the normal maps, just a regular black and white one. And we'll say, how about we use roughness for that? Nope. Plug it into the bump. It's going to do its weird calculation thing. I wonder if it has anything to do with me being on frame 72. Oh, did it? Oh man, it didn't. No, it's doing it. It's not letting me zoom in on the giant. Come on. No crashing. I saw that circle thing. There we go. All right. Back to normal. All right. So this is plugging just the roughness texture into this bump. It's getting a little bit weird. There we go. I have like a weird normal thing going on. Yeah, so it's got like this weird normal thing going on right here. I don't think, I guess you can throw it into a bump map. Maybe that will clear it up. I thought you could just throw it right in. Let's go ahead and throw it in a bump map, see if, oh yeah, okay, so that clears it up. Redshift is love. What's up, Merc? Dude, Merc, I sent him a tweet, like a DM tweet earlier today, and he put a video out in like no time for me just to help me with something, and that was awesome. So if you guys don't watch his GIFs or subscribe to his Patreon, go watch his stuff, because he's totally active in the Redshift forums. He's making all this content and giving it away. So go support his Patreon, please, because that was totally awesome for you to do that, dude. So yeah, here it is in a bump map. going back to your question, Matt, and it looks like it renders better, so I really thought you could just plug it right into the bump. So bump map here, if you want to change the height, just pull that back, nice and easy. And old range is going to be what your texture comes in at, and new range is what you want to set it at, so you can get really fine details. So let's bring this back, kind of spread out the range a little bit. You'll see it kind of softens it up in there. And if I bring up the new range min, it really softens it up, but then I can expand it out even more. And if I go really far, I start to really enhance that, but then we can also just bring this back down. And if you want it to go inwards, start to really texture this guy up. You are welcome, Merc. Thank you. That was, I thought I was just gonna get like a one-word tweet back of this is how you do it, but that was really awesome. So you can see, and the arms is starting to get a little weird. That might be good for like the triplanar that we were messing with before. So why don't we just do 0, 1, 0, 2, and bring that there. So nice and subtle. So Matt was also asking about a normal. So we can do a normal map in here. Same deal. We go in, get our normal. Nope, don't copy. Put that in the bump. So now you can see it in here, updating nice and fast. You can just scale the normal, get a little bit more out of it. And this is from the same set, so let's do Blender. I think, Billy, you said that you can merge the two, right? So let's bring in this as our base, and this will be layer 0 input, and put that there. See if we can, yeah, so now you get both. So there's a roughness bump map here, which is getting these really deep details, and then we've got normal map here, which is getting some subtle details, and we can control even more here. Let's bring this back down. So now you've got pretty subtle for both. Maybe bring that height up a little bit more. And now you can blend between the two. So now this is all normal map with just a little bit going in there. Let me bring this back up. And then come back down to 50-50. So now you can see some of the residual of the normal map there, and then the bump map. Now we're getting back into just the bump map. And then displacement, bring that in here. And we'll get a texture. You know what, I'll just use this same texture. Except I'll disconnect that from there. So for displacement, pipe the texture in here, texture map, and then your displacement is going to be in the output over here under displacement. Oh, thanks, Merc. Yeah, I kind of went over that because I went over the material blender too, but I'll show that really quickly before I get into this for showing additive. So the more you blend this up, it actually adds them together instead. While this, you go from one end to the other. So that's just normal, that's just bump, and that's right in between. And additive is just adding the two together more and more. So disconnect that, go back to displacement. I'm going to be honest, Matt, I have never used displacement on here, so I'm hoping this works out all right. I figured it would be the same way. Merc or Billy, if either one of you has used displacement in here, feel free to chime in. Because I'm not getting results like I thought it would just by piping displacement in there. I need a tag, like an object tag? Is that really a thing? Really? What, I have to do like override geometry? Or do I have to go into like visibility override? Yeah, no, I added a tag, Matt. Oh, you know what? There's a delay. So, oh, I gotta do a displacement enabled. Cool. Whoa. Cool. Now see, we're all learning together. This is why I like live and live streaming, because I can learn with you. Man, that's pretty cool looking. Kind of looks like a grotesque sack. So there we go. All right. Reining this in a little bit now. Let's go back to 0, 1, 0, 1. Yay, together we did it. We're Captain Planet. So is height field gonna make a big difference versus tangent and object? Damn, that like really displaces that. That's pretty awesome. I'm glad you asked that question, Matt. Because most displacement takes a while to compute, and this is fast. Let's just go ahead and make him cool. So that's what he would look like with kind of like some acid thrown on his face. How far can we push this? Oh yeah, even more. And then we'll just go ahead and throw the bump in here. Crank that up. And go in here. Bring this height up a little bit. Cool. Man. Deathbed, Iron Giant. Man, look at those legs. They get skinny. Look at that. Man, this is awesome. Matt, dude, thanks so much for asking that question. This gets crazy detailed. Do I have undersampling on still? Nope. I was wondering why I wasn't moving as fast. There we go. Oh man. I'm just gonna call you Ola because I am gonna butcher your name so bad. But thanks for joining. So if I go back up here, let's blow him out a little bit, kind of like Michelin Man. Cool. All right, what other fun stuff should we explore in the next 20 minutes or so? Oh, what was the other thing that happened in the object tag that I needed to bring up? I thought about this the other day. Billy, it was you. You know what? Let's talk about this, about caustics a little bit. I know this is kind of off topic, but since we brought up the object tag, now show off some SSS. I will show off subsurface scattering in 1 second. So speaking of like hidden, nope, come back, Iron Giant. Hidden things in. I deleted things too quickly. All right. No. I don't need that book up. Doot. That's loading. We can look at my face. What's up, everybody? Waiting for Cinema to relaunch. Anyway, while this is going, Billy and I were talking the other day, and he couldn't figure out how to get caustics to work properly. And you have to put an object tag on anything you want to have caustics on. So that's really obnoxious. So my wife is texting me to make sure I lock the car door. All right, so cinema is back up. So I bring in an object again. And how about do human heart, because that's subsurface, right? Cool. Come over here, get a light. Let's do a point light and crank this up by like that much. Starting Redshift. All right, so subsurface scattering. So right in here under materials, I am pretty certain that they are going to discontinue the normal subsurface scattering. If you go to Redshift's website and read the manual, they tell you to use skin and the regular material from now on, or they recommend it and all that. So I'm going to throw the material in there. Sorry guys, I got to increase my icons for you because of this new monitor. I probably have to reset my render settings a little bit for you too. So I'll do 64 and 128. Make sure global illumination's turned on in here, and point cloud. This can be 128, and I'll make this 32. And that should be good to go. All right, good enough. All right, so for subsurface scattering, we can start in here without even going into the graph editor. Man, I'm going to throw this heart in a subdivision surface because it's got some pixelation going on there. Cool. There we go. Nice and smooth. All right. So for single subsurface, which means like not skin, but more like plastics and glass, like a pane of glass, things like that. That's going to be all down here under subsurface. Multi-surface is going to be over here. So let's start with single subsurface. What I'm going to do is kill this, and you'll notice the guy goes away over here, a heart. And I'm going to put just a little bit of scatter on there. That might even be too much. No, that looks about right. All right. And that's all it is to get started with subsurface scattering. And if you go on Twitter or Merc, you can post it in here, dude. Merc has like a cool cloud effect that you can make clouds just using this subsurface in here. I forget exactly how to go through it because I did it once. I was like, man, that blows my mind, and I haven't done it again since. But go find Merc's page or his Twitter and learn how to make clouds just with this. I think you pretty much, if I remember right, you just like turn up the scatter really high? No, that I don't remember. Sorry, I'm not gonna do it justice. Go look up Merck's tutorial. Anyway, so this is how you start doing subsurface scattering. And you can bring this in here. Let's put it in the center of the heart there. I'm going to turn on my buckets so it's even smoother. And that's how you can get some nice subsurface scattering. And maybe we'll give this a little bit of color. How about like this blue? Probably don't even need it this bright. So pretty cool. Kind of looks like a ladybug's butt, but it's a heart. And that's it for single layer subsurface. And you can start to mess around with it, and just a little bit of absorption and scatter goes a long way. If I bring this up, it's going to scatter the light even more and let more through. It's kind of like a power scale. So you can start to see a little bit more leaking over the edges here. You can see a little bit more detail from back there. I'll just put that back down to 1. Scatter is going to be how heavy it scatters the light. So even just going up to like 0.25, it's going to make a big difference. So you can see it's really scattering the light before it comes through. And then phase, anything from 0 to 1 is going to fade out from forward to back. Or sorry, from 0 is back to forward. So you'll start to see as I go up all the way to 1, there's nothing. Bring it back a little bit. Not quite enough yet. Should be enough now. There we go. So the closest part to the camera starts to be revealed. Then go like this. We get towards the center. Even closer. And then now we're like really in the center. Go the opposite spectrum. It's from the back forward. So nothing again. So the back starts to illuminate. Then we're going to come forward even more. And then back home. All right, so here's something I learned in the tutorial. If you're not doing this, was with the single subsurface scatter, you have to have your diffuse up before multi-surface scattering will work. And then the light is not there, of course. It's inside the heart. So what we can do is bring up the amount. Go ahead and do this. And wait, you can think of layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3 as is like your skin. So there's 3 layers to your skin. And this is your top layer. This is the mid layer. So if you ever get a tattoo or you have tattoos, this is where they put the ink. And this is your bottom layer where all the blood is running through your body. And it's the same in the skin shader too, or skin material. So bring that up, and as soon as that loads, you'll see scattering layers. We have shallow, mid, and deep, which is the same as here. You can think of this as shallow, mid, and deep. But because it's not associated with anything, you can make it do whatever you want. So amount, of course, is going to be telling the render engine how much you want this to be subsurface scattering versus this diffuse mix. So going all the way up to 1 is saying we want full-blown subsurface or multi-subsurface scattering. Radius scale is going to be the power. And then all your layers here going to control various depths of that. So right now, because it's kind of this blue light, you can also, oh yeah, I showed that in the tutorial, and I'll show that again too, how you can do like a fast poor man's subsurface scattering. But so because this is this kind of orange in here, why aren't you popping up color? There we go. It's starting to turn green. If I make this pink, it's going to be like blue and pink mixed together, so we'll probably turn this purpley color. I can probably just turn this off now. I don't need it to be perfect. No. Oh, am I a liar? Why? There we go. And so just like before, if you increase the radius, you're going to get more power out of it. So now more of the light's coming through. It's really letting it scatter. So what Merck is talking about, and I really like, and I talk about in the tutorial, kind of makes like a gummy bear effect, is turn this off, bring this down, and I'm going to turn this all the way up. And I have brute force GI turned on with an Radiance cache, so you're going to get this nice kind of effect here. But let me turn this light back to white, or I'll just go back to Kelvin. There we go. So now you can fake subsurface scattering really quickly by using this backlighting translucency, just by cranking it all the way up and turning your diffuse off. And it's a lot faster than normal subsurface scattering. And part of that is because subsurface scattering gets its own render pass. So right in here, I talk about that more in the tutorial. And then you can start to mess around with these settings a bit. So there's that like gummy bear type feel. And then if you add reflection onto it, you get the cool little highlights around. So we can add some more roughness to get some more specular hits. You'll see hitting right in there and there, just a little bit. So just nice, really cheap, easy way to do subsurface scattering without wasting a lot of energy at render time. So if you see your render times are taking 30 seconds or a minute a frame, or getting just really high render times, and you have really advanced subsurface scattering on, this is a way you can combat that. And then of course there is subsurface scattering for the skin. Throw that on there. And this is just going to look like skin now. Sorry, as I take a drink of water. So now it looks like blood vessels, and if you were shining a light through your finger, this looks almost identical to what happens when you shine a light through your finger, and I talk about that in the tutorial too. But thank you, Merck, for bringing that up, because I forgot I had pointed that out in the tutorial. And we can move this around, and you'll see, I'll just turn that off. Maybe I needed to turn it back on. I might actually have to have my GI going. Yeah, I do. So I need my buckets on. Because the skin. Cool. So yeah, Caustics. I talked about that a little bit before. Now that I'm done with this, I'm going to just show it really quickly. Who is talking to me? Is that you, Matt? All right, so Caustics. if you want to have glass and get chat. There we go. What's going on? Undersampling on? No, I don't think so. No, not at the moment. So come on. Wake up. There we go. So if I bring in a sphere, that's gonna be huge. Turn that down. I'm gonna bring in an area light. So most things, when they reflect, will have some kind of caustics to it. I'll show that here. So this should actually have some color coming off of it, and that's what caustics will do. And Billy and I were talking about this the other day. You can't just get it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. It seems like it should just work. So if I crank my samples up under reflection, say 128. What's up, Gaming Space Boy? Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the compliment. You would expect maybe some light to show up. If I crank this to blue, maybe there'll be a blue reflection, nothing. But if I do the diffuse as pink, maybe try that out. Still nothing. So we're trying to figure this out and figure it out the same way that you have to put a tag onto it. So we'll go in Redshift Object, and under Visibility you have to do Override, and then Cast Caustic Photons. And nothing really happens there either. So it's a mix of having to go and add that tag on, as well as increasing the number of caustic photons. So if I go up to like 2,000, and then increasing the search radius as well. And then in your photons, making sure that it emits caustics too. It's a lot of steps just to get caustics to work, and then even a lot of times you'll have to throw on a multiplier and like try a few different numbers. So now you can start to see just a little bit showing up there. Maybe if I increase that a little bit. It's a lot of playing around, and it's too bad that it just doesn't work easier than that. You can go all the way up to 5. I've found that you might have to go up to like 15 sometimes to even get it to slightly show up. So if I increase the intensity up to say 20, maybe we can get it. Let's see. But yeah, there we go. So I have the reflection on this set to blue. So there it is. There's the blue reflection finally coming off and hitting the floor here. So it's just a pain in the butt to say, all right, search radius of 5 here, need to crank that up. Area light, intensity multiplier up to 20. Let's just, for the fun of it, put it up to 50, see what happens. So now it starts to get really strong. You can start to see it gets a little bit like blotchy too, so that's now too strong. So if you are watching this and you want to do caustics either through glass or reflections of materials, it's not, I wish I had an easy answer to it, but this is the way that I figured it out, is you kind of have to play around. You need to make sure your objects have a redshift tag on them. You have to make sure your photons under your render settings have a big search radius and enough maximum number of caustic photons, and high reflection too. So just a weird material thing for anyone who's still trying to figure that out. I lost one of my chats. There it is. Cool. All right, what time are we at? So we're like 10 minutes over. If anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to throw them at me. Feel free to throw them at me. There we go. Words. But other than that, I'm going to wrap it up pretty soon. Sorry that we started an hour later. My wife had surgery yesterday, so I just was on dad duty trying to get my kids to sleep, which usually it's both of us getting the kids to sleep, and it takes 15 minutes, and just took longer than normal. So next week we should be back to our normal time, so we're not so late. Awesome, Space Boy. That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like the past, 48 hours or so, or like past week, I've been getting a lot of this from people that they started looking for Redshift tutorials this week, and the timing just worked out that we've been releasing them. So I'm glad that timing's worked out, and as I learn more and do more, that you guys can learn with me, and we can all come up with great looking stuff through Redshift. And if you were around earlier, Space Boy, you probably saw all of us working through me figuring out how to use displacement. So that was fun. So if you don't know, just for something to do while you're experimenting with Redshift, if you go to Brograph.com/randorender, they have a random idea generator that you guys can use to help facilitate ideas inside Redshift and Cinema 4D. So like brick soda can or snow globe poop. I don't know. But it's really fun if you're ever stuck on trying to figure out a daily render or learn something. Go check out the Rando Render for sure. It helps with trying to learn stuff. So if you want to learn how to make like a glass pen, then that will be a prompt, and then you can come into Redshift and start figuring out how to make glass and work with caustics and work with plastic and work with all the parts that go into whatever your Rando render was. So it's a great way to step up your game quickly, because you are challenging yourself to learn a new part of Redshift every day, or however often you want to step into it. What's up, Surge? And the Sage. I have no audio, though. I'm just on my phone. Anyone else not having audio? I'm wrapping up now anyway, but that would suck.
No, your audio's been fine.
Cool.
I've been checking it, and I checked it on the phone too. If your phone is in mute and you're on Facebook, it won't. If like you have your phone silenced, there won't be any audio.
Cool. Okay.
Maybe that's it, but no, you got audio. You're good.
Cool. All right, guys. So thanks so much for coming through and hanging out. Billy, Matt, and Merc, and everybody that helped me get through displacement. That was awesome. I appreciate that, and these are really fun for me for that whole reason. So where to check us out? Definitely check out Brograph on Twitter @Brograph. Check out their podcast. They're the ones that are running everything behind the scene. For myself, it is @_531 on Twitter. 5 is spelled out FIVE, or you can go to 5-31.com. I've posted a schedule up there of tentative tutorials I want to release. I think, if I remember correctly, either next week or the week after is going to be like AOV and breaking down how to do multipass. I got to check the schedule. I forget if I had another one lined up after this. So yeah, thanks so much. It's great hanging out with you, and I'm glad I'm getting all this feedback. And I will talk to you all soon. Thanks again. See ya.
Later, bros.
Later, bros. 5:31 is love and life. That's great to leave on that. That's funny.